not going to get away with it because we've got you covered. Surveillance, you look suspicious, let's follow you covertly. And that's what most people think that systems are used for. Identify and search, it's to be able to ask for public assistance, for example, in the UK when the London bombings took place, and the failed bombers that failed 2 weeks after the bombs that did succeed, basically the cameras, images were used to ask the public to help to find where these people were. And that's the identify and search. Evidence, okay, we know you've done it, here's the proof, that's the proof. So there's a variety of different reasons. And the quality of the camera and the type of camera that's used will be determined on what they're trying to do with the camera in terms of where it's placed. The other important thing in terms of role is role of traditional perimeter security. This is inside a building. Now, if you look at perimeter security, you know, if you take the idea that there's a fence around something, and then after the fence you might have another layer of security all the way through to the data center, and you might have a whole range of different controls. Well, the strange thing is nowadays, because of the reliance on CCTV, you've got CCTV at every step of the way. Yeah? And that is quite dangerous, as you'll see as I go through the presentation. In terms of understanding CCTV systems, if you look at the components, there's a whole range of components that go to make up the CCTV, and the functionality will be determined by the components. For example, the image conversion chip that's in there, whether it's coupled or CCD or CMOS, the intruder sensors, there's control pan tilt zoom functionality, the day and night use. There's a whole range of different components. Now, each of these components has technology that enables it to work and function effectively as a whole. So you've got the remote viewing, you've got the audio, you've got the upgrading for software, compression, and email notifications. So all these things require some additional software or hardware or both. Services and protocols. This is quite important. If you can understand in terms of some of the things that you want the camera to do, obviously to be able to to view the pictures remotely, you need something that's going to serve the pictures, and for that a web server is used and a variety of web services. Then you've got to be able to update the firmware remotely. You've got FTP. Now that's recent in most cameras. Most cameras used to have TFTP, which most of you guys will know, doesn't require any password at all. So you could update the firmware with your own version of the firmware, however you may have changed it in any way, shape, or form, and they wouldn't have a clue. So you could have done that yourselves until recently on many of the cameras. You've got SNMP, TCP, UDP, DNS, dynamic DNS services, HTTP, HTTPS, Telnet, shell scripting, PHP, and task schedulers. Now, with all these functionalities, not every single one, but majority of them that are in the cameras, what you find is that the cameras are using Linux, and if they're using Linux, embedded Linux, they have to, because of the fact that it's open source, they have to make sure that anything that they use and they add on, they are making it available to other people to be able to see and functionality. Now, I know that many of those services that we've looked at, in the cameras that we've looked at, are software where it was created by, in many cases, by students who were doing it as a research project while they were studying. And they're meant to update it at some time or another, but they never did. So it wasn't written with security in mind. Yeah? And that's quite worrying, really, if you look at many of these. Web servers, there's a couple of those around which definitely are and fit into that category. So many of these things here are definitely vulnerable. If you use your skills, you will find, and you go through it, and we've looked at a whole range of these. We can't make them available at the moment. What we are going to make available is we're going to have manufacturers with the model and with the software and the version of the software that is current within that model, and if there are any upgrades available. Now from there, anyone that wants to can work out what vulnerabilities exist for that version of the software. Now, before we make that publicly available, we are going to offer this back to the manufacturers to make sure that if they want to change anything within a certain time period, they can do that We don't want to release that publicly right now at the moment. Okay? DVR's viewing system. So you've got a camera, you've got a viewing monitor, you've got a recording system that are connected. Sometimes a whole range of different middleware that goes in between. Now, I don't want to look at the middleware necessarily, but they have their own vulnerabilities. So there's local recording, whether it's tape, CD, DVD, hard disk. You get multiple camera recording. You can get it timed, you can get it random. You can program them, the manual, the automatic. There's lots of different functionality. And one of the interesting things is that all the technology that manufacturers have focused on in the last 10 years in CCTV systems has all been around functionality for the police to be able to use the images for what they want. None of the technology and the research that they've done have been around securing the systems. Yep. So if you look in London, for example, for congestion charging, when you drive into London within the congestion charge area, what happens is the CCTV camera will take an image and they will read the number plate. So there's special software which read the number plates. So then you've got additional software around face recognition systems. Then you've got additional intelligence software, and this intelligence software will look at whether or not somebody's likely to commit a crime. And there's lots and lots and lots of software that's available all around images and what you can do with images and all that sort of technology. It's not around securing the camera or anything to do with securing the camera. And a lot of the functionality that I look at is event-based and image-based. This is a basic setup that you might have. A monitor there, there's a couple of cameras there, computer network, you've got wireless camera there, a possible setup, as I said. You've got DVR multiplex, and it can be, whether it's specific cabling, coaxial, Ethernet. You've got some traditional cameras in the system as well, some network cameras, and signal receivers and transmitters. There's lots and lots of different setups, and if you look at the base traditional setup, if you have a camera in a motorway, for example, that's remote, that's going to be connected to the viewing station over Ethernet. There's going to be next to nothing in between, or the camera is going to be a remote, and then it's going to go through a firewall to go anywhere into where the viewing station is. However, to get from the camera to where the monitoring area is, it's going to travel over the internet. So that's one setup. Then you're going to get a whole range of other setups where a range of cameras feed into one place, and then those are fed through the internet. So, there's variations on a theme, and all of them involve the fact that you've got cameras that are out there on the internet live that are miles away from where they're going to be viewed. Yep. And the changes in setup is usually not at the camera end because of the fact that it is remote. The changes in the setup is at your end where the monitoring stations are. Yeah? So network system components, network card, whether it's wireless or wired, switches, routers. These are the obvious things. Now, on this slide, in some of the research that I've done, I like going to look at the original components and who the component makers, what their views on what they're doing, and so on. Now, most of the exhibitions I've been to looking at components, I like to go to the manufacturer and I say, right, okay, this is really, really good. I like the functionality. What is it that you're doing right now about security? And every single one over the last few years, whenever I've spoken to any manufacturer of components or of the final CCTV system, every single one, without fail, has said, oh, well, basically, we leave the security up to the network guys. Yep. So they have distanced themselves in doing anything at all about securing the system. So they are leaving anything and everything to do with security to the network people. Now, given that in a corporate organization, you have lots and lots and lots of skills, and if any of you guys work within a corporate environment, you'll know that there are different skills for different parts of the network and the IT infrastructure. You know, be it the network administrators, the firewall guys, the guys that own the bandwidth, and what you do with it, how it's distributed. And you know, you're going to have lots and lots of different skills. Now, many of these skills are broken down with people who've got several years of experience. In the CCTV industry, if you look at the fact that traditionally CCTV cameras were installed and set up by people who had experience in radio and TV. And there were engineers in TV and radio, not in networks. And what many of the installers go through to be able to install network CCTV is a 2 to 3 day networking course. Now, you know, and I know, that the guys that you have in your networks, would you allow someone to run your network for you, someone who's had 2 to 3 days of experience to install your network and run your network for you? The chances are you wouldn't, yeah? However, all these systems are installed and run by people who've only got 2 to 3 days of experience in networking. And all that has been on a training course usually, and none practical, yep? So all these things here, you know, we're familiar with them, we've played around with them, we know that. The manufacturers leave all the security to the network level, the installers don't have an idea of the network. So basically, what I'm saying to you is, at the moment, if you look at cameras, everything is left to the network level and no one is controlling it and no one's running it, no one's caring about it, nobody's thinking about what's happening in detail about any of these. Similarities with other network embedded devices. This is where my background and where I came from. How I got into CCTV systems is because I was interested in embedded devices, and I was interested in particular anything that would be networked and is remote and can't be run locally. And the similarities are there's no graphical display, serves data, is remote controlled, security is left to the network level, and there's an embedded operating system which runs the appropriate protocols and services. Technical problem areas, and this is what I was pointing out earlier on. There's the network, there's the architecture, the hardware, the software, protocols, data passing. There's lots and lots of different layers within the camera and the components that work within the system, and all of them have no one that's technically competent looking at them. And quite often we see systems that are installed, as I said, by somebody who's got 2 or 3 days experience, and they will come and design a system for you not understanding the network at all. And that's quite horrifying, and that happens all over the place wherever you go. Oops. Right, what are the implications of the last few slides? So we've got a system which has lots of network system components. It has similarities with other devices, so there's going to be lots of other devices on a network. There's a whole range of problem technical areas, and there's no one looking at these and no one that understands these from the CCTV point of view or network point of view. And basically, you're left lots and lots of cameras all over the place, and no one is responsible for them, and no one is monitoring them. No one's looking at what they're actually doing and how vulnerable they are or what can happen. Now, we've come across instances quite often where we say to network guys, listen, we think you've got some network CCTV. And they say, no, we can't have. We know we haven't. We haven't authorized it. And then we find that there's surely enough, there's a PC somewhere where somebody has got 4 cameras and they've plugged them to the back of their PC just by using a network CCTV card. So they've plugged these in, and now they've got network CCTV and not know that they've got network CCTV. We come across this situation quite often. Yeah. And the wrong focus, that's quite important, because the focus, as I said, has been, you know, blaming or leaving everything up to the network guys. The focus has been on image quality. It has been on producing good quality pan tilt zoom functionality. It's been on recording functionality, the administration of the system remotely, and even CCTV forensics is not what I thought it would be. You see, CCTV forensics, as its practice, is basically looking at how, if you think you've caught someone on camera, how you can follow them step by step all over the different data that you've got in the different cameras and the different lots of images that you've caught. That's what CCTV forensics is. For me, CCTV forensics should be about, if someone is hacked into your CCTV system, how can you track them on your network to actually understand that it has actually been hacked? Sample camera unit setups, there's variations on a theme. I mentioned that earlier on. You get the one camera, which is local, and it's straightforward and it's connected to your PC. You get